Good afternoon. Thank you so much. Um, appears I'm between you and the weekend. Well, there is a closing session, but okay, that's not about any technology anymore. So, very short introduction for those who do not know me. I'm a freelance technical consultant and trainer. That means that on a daily basis I do a lot of development myself, and I try to teach others how to do so by helping others, coaching, delivering workshops. But I do development myself, and I think I haven't developed in Seaside for 2 years now. I'm not doing any Seaside development anymore. Well, not totally true. For one customer, I have Seaside, but that is a customer who's on the way out, so I only need to create some XML ports. Anyway, I'm also an MVP for a couple of years, which means that if I do not work for partners or customers, I spend my spare time on the product, finding things out and trying to share that with you. Working in the channel since 2002, and in the Netherlands we have what we call the Dutch Dynamics community, which I started about 10 years ago. And well, that is a community actually. We have these kind of sessions, a little bit smaller, about 200 people every time, but that's 4 times a year, not 1 time a year. So in total we have 800. If you want to reach out or read my blog or want to reach out with a question, look at you can find my email here. So I want to start with a survey, and of course there is something behind this, because the results of this survey will go into Business Central. So I would like you to fill in this form, and I will, at the same time, I will give you a moment to get this one. You can scan it, you can type in the link. It will bring you to a Microsoft form with just one single question. And then I will switch to Business Central to see what is coming in, if it works. It worked last night, so let's hope it still works. So let me switch to Business Central here. Yep, this looks so nice. Can I have Business Central, please? There we go. Well, no, it's not the fastest thing in the world. But here we go. I do have some responses from you. Nobody has no experience. Is that true? The Wi-Fi can't take the response. But anyway, you see responses coming in. 40, 44, 43, okay. We have an expert in the room. Whoa. 2 experts, actually. Please come on stage. Maybe I can learn something from you. Are there any Microsoft people? I should have asked that as well. So, what you see happening here is that you filled out a survey, a form with Microsoft Forms, and in the background I have a Microsoft, no, not a Microsoft Flow, I have a flow running with Power Automate, the new name, that sends all this data, your responses, back into Business Central. And of course I will later on during this session show you what else in the background. So, great, this works. Thank you for proving that my demo is really working. I have not so many slides. I have about 9 demos in total. And if I talk for every demo for 10 minutes, we're already running out of time. So let's hope that works out. The Power Platform. What are we going to talk about in this session? I know there were other sessions today, yesterday about also Flow or Power Apps, whatever. So my idea is that I do not go, not repeat what has been told in the other sessions. I am not going over the basics. I want to go into the technical details of working with Power Apps and Automate. Of course, I need to start somewhere, so maybe there will be a little bit overlap in the beginning, but trust me, I will go into the dark rooms of Power Automate and Power Apps and tell you what works and what doesn't work. So what we will do is we will talk about Power Apps, we'll talk about Power Automate, and we'll talk about the data connectors. That's our focus, that's our topics for this session. We're not talking about Power BI, not talking about the virtual agents and AI Builder. That's not my cup of tea, actually. And Common Data Service, we have seen Microsoft is working on better integration with that, so I leave it to them for now. Power Apps. What's the promise of Power Apps? Create powerful apps, well, that's true, without writing a single line of code. And in a certain way, that is true. You do not code behind or write code behind Power Apps. I can tell you, I just told about that Dutch Dynamics community event that we have in the Netherlands. Well, we had a session for functional consultants talking about Power Apps and Flow. It was for functional consultants because there was no code involved. And they complained because it was too much of clicking, too much of formula writing. And I can tell you, you really need to write some logical stuff. You type formulas. And maybe you could compare it a little bit to writing formulas or writing macros in Excel. They say it's like an Excel way of working. And yes, it has a little bit of the UI of Excel in the top where you have a formula bar where you can select a property and then write in something. But that's pretty much for the Excel likeness. It is really, really about logic. And writing those formulas is something you need to learn. And if there is any user, any end user who's capable of writing apps and putting together flows, probably he just had the wrong job. Probably he would also be a good developer, because you need to have that background to know what you're doing. So with apps, Power Apps, we create apps that enables you or enables the end user to read data, write data, take actions. It is an app that is focused at a certain task. Now, there's one thing that I already want to say here. If you create apps, don't try to put too many functionality into an app. You rather create multiple apps focusing on a specific task instead of creating one big app where the user in the start screen has to select what function he wants to do. That is overly complicating, and that's not needed. Now, to get to that data, read data, write data, you have connectors. And over 200 standard connectors are available in Power Apps and Power Automate. They share those connectors, and you can also create custom connectors, something I know at least some people in this room are waiting for to see that live. So the connectors, they connect to data. I will come back to connectors later, what exactly that is, or exactly, but at least what it is. So there is also a Business Central connector, connecting data for Business Central. And I will show you how that works. So what is a connector? A connector enables the communication between Power Apps, Power Automate, and a public available set of APIs. So if a data source does not have any APIs, it would be quite hard to get the data out of it into Power Apps or Power Automate. So we're talking about APIs, and most of those data sources that do have already connectors in Business Central, you don't even have to think about their APIs. They're just there, and the connector hides the complexity of the APIs for you. A connector, in fact, offers you a set of operations in the form of actions and triggers. And the action could be simply something like read a record. For example, you talk about SharePoint, read a file, or an action that creates a folder, or a connector for Outlook, say send a new email or create a new task. All these kind of actions are available for you to call directly from Power Apps or from Power Automate. Triggers are also part of connectors, and triggers work the other way around. Triggers is something that happens outside the platform, and they call the Power Platform that something happened. Triggers are specifically for Power Automate. So Power Automate can automatically start because of something happened in the outside world. You don't start a Power App automatically because something happened, right? A Power App is something that is user-focused, user interface, giving to the user. It does not start automatically like, hey, I'm a Power App, please type something in. A connector is describing the actions and the triggers, the available actions and triggers. A connection is based on a connector and is the real connection to the data source. You can have multiple connections based on one connector. The best way I can describe that to you as the Business Central developers is think of a table definition in Business Central with fields, with functions. It does not represent the record. It represents the table with the possible fields and actions and functions. But the real record does contain the data. Well, it's not 100% valid maybe, but that is quite a similar thing with connectors and connections. You can have the connector with the operations, and the connection itself stores username, passwords, or whatever credentials you need to get to that data source. And then on that data source, you can operate the actions from the connector. You might have seen this before. How many people did attend the session before about Power Apps? Okay. And how many did attend, by the way, the session of Vierko and Waldo about API stuff? Most of you. Good. Let me say this. I will probably have here some overlap with the session from Alexander Todorovic, and that's fine because I probably tell something different at least. And about APIs, that's great, because I'm not going to explain in detail how APIs work. If you want to see that, you haven't seen the session, then watch the session on YouTube and you have all the information you need. So Business Central does have a connector out of the box available. And in fact, there are two connectors. There's one for Power BI, which I will not touch, and there's one for Power Apps and Flow, because they share connectors. If you create, for example, a custom connector with Power Apps, then also that custom connector is available in the Flow environment. The connector from Business Central that is available is based on the APIs. Well, not 100%. It contains more than only the APIs. In fact, it contains the APIs plus a list of web services. And with web services, I mean the page-based web services that are available in Business Central. And it is a wide list of those web services, meaning it is a subset. You cannot extend it. It is just a subset that they take. They will offer, with the connector, that set of web services. And I will, of course, show you which one that is and which are not. It supports business functions. Of course, I took this slide from Microsoft, so I have to explain what with business functions we mean here. That is, business functions like a record was created, a record was modified, a record was deleted, these kind of stuff. I don't consider that to be a real business function. I mean, creating a record doesn't tell me anything. if you keep in mind that creating a record in Business Central just means when a user enters a record that he just entered the primary key and then on the page needs to fill out all the fields, and then the fields, if you save them, it is a modifier on the record, which could happen multiple times when the user is entering data in the page, because you may have set some curpage.update lines here and there. So when the user enters a record, he actually does an insert, he does a modify, maybe multiple modifies, and then he leaves the screen. So tell me, what is now the business function of that? Which moment do I have a new record? When the record is created, when it was modified first time, second time, when it leaves the screen, is it finished then? That is not a business function. A business function for me is when a sales order is released or posted, or when a customer is unblocked so I can use it. That is a business function. And these business functions are not available with the standard connector. The only business functions that you will find are triggers like when an approval is requested for customer, sales, quote, purchase, invoice, etc. Out of the box we get 12 flow templates. I'll come to that later in one of the next slides. And we have also the possibility that Power Apps can automatically create an app. Okay, that's nice. We're going to do that, of course. So let's just dive into Power Apps and let him create an app out of the box based on the custom, or based on the Business Central connector. What I need to tell you up front is that not everything in that created app will work. Let me demonstrate that. So I go to my Power Apps environment, make.powerapps.com, and here I have two apps that I will demonstrate later. I'm going to create a new app. So I have to choose between Canvas app, model-driven app, or portal app. A Canvas app is an app that is just a blank sheet of paper where you can put controls anywhere on the page with positioning them with XY positions, just like we could do in the past in the forms editor in the classic client. That's the best comparison I can make to Business Central techies who are longer in the channel and who remember the forms editor. This is kind of the same. A model-driven app is working different. We won't touch it here because I think for Business Central people working with Business Central as a data source, the model-driven app is based on CDS data, is probably a little bit more off here. So I'm going to create a Canvas app. When I create a new Canvas app, I can choose to do that as with a template, as an empty app, a blank app, or with a certain template, or I can start with my data, and that is what I will do. Before I can start with data, I must have a connection. The connection is going to my data. So under connections, I need to have a connection to Business Central, which I already do have here. But if I want to create a new connection, which is possible, then I can just create on a new connection, do a search on Business Central, find out that I have a couple of them, 2 custom connectors, 2 standard connectors. By the way, there is also a Dynamics Nav connector. It's in preview for a product that is kind of on the way out, but it is in preview. So, okay, I don't know what exactly the idea is behind that. But anyway, let's focus at Business Central. And you will see a Business Central here and a Business Central on-premise here. Meaning that this Business Central is going to link to the cloud version, and the on-premise is linking to an on-premise installation. And if you want to do that with on-premise, you need to provide him with the base URL of the OData Web Services. and so he can contact that. When you click on Business Central and you create a new connection, you get this question. And if you were in Waldo's Vehicles session, you will recognize this screen. This is OAuth. It's going to ask you if you want to sign in as a user. And if you never did this before, he will also ask you, do you allow me to get access to Business Central on your behalf? So what you in fact are doing is you are creating a connection with your credentials. I've done that already, so I can skip that for now, but if I click on this one, he will just create me another connection. So I'd say cancel, and then finally you will, under connections, get a connection here where you can see the connection with the credentials that he is using. So we're going to use that connection to create an app from data. I get it listed here as a data source that he can use to create data from, or to create an app from. And then he says, okay, you need to choose a data set. In my environment that I have two different environments. I have a production environment, I have a sandbox environment. And if I would create another environment, it will also be listed here. He will also show you the companies in that environment. In fact, if you have 4 environments, and let's say each environment will have 5 companies, you will see 20 data sets here. That means that your app, if you create it with the standard Business Central connector, is linked to a specific company in a specific environment. If you want to create an app that is bound to a different company or a different environment, then you need to create another app. For each company that you have, you create a new Power App, because the data set is bound to that particular company environment combination. I don't like it. I think that you should have, when you open a Power App, you should get a question: which environment and which company do you want to open, at least. That's my idea. But the standard connector does not support that. So I go with the Sandbox Kronos USA, and then I get a list of tables that I can choose from. Now, these tables come from the standard APIs, but it's not only the standard APIs. It also contains some stuff that is called workflow, customers, workflow items, etc. These are not APIs. These come from the web services. If I go in Business Central for web services, you will see them. And you will see much more entities in that web services. So let's find web services. Come. You will find Power BI stuff here. Oops, a little bit fast. Let me sort on the object name. I cannot, service name, it's, okay, whatever. So I have native invoicing, native stuff, native PDFs, I have a number of services that start with Power BI, and I have a number of services that start with workflow. And if I look into this one, I don't see those Power BI stuff. I don't see those web services with native, but I do see the ones with workflow. This means that the connector is offering you a subset of the APIs combined, the standard published APIs, API version 1, combined with the web services. It's a combination. Does that make a difference? Yes, it does. I will come to that later. So for now, I take whatever, I take items. Now let's, yeah, whatever, I take items. And then say connect. And now he's going to generate the app. based on the items in the Kronos USA company in my sandbox environment. It will take a couple of seconds, and then I will have a new app over here that I can just use and run. Let me run it, and I can click on it, get into the items. I can item details. I can even say this display name is a Athens desk at NAV Tech Days. Say save that one, please. Go back, and then here under items. Yeah, I should have warmed up that one. Come on. And here we see an Athens desk at NAV Tech Days, just updated from Power Apps. I can tell you, when you do a demo for customers, this is perfect. When you do a demo for the management of a company, be careful. Because they think, okay, we don't need those developers anymore, we can do this. And this is not a joke. I know a company where that happened. So, not everything is working out of the box. Let's try the filter thing here. Search items. Boom. Nothing. Maybe with asterisk, wildcard, or question mark, or percentage. Nothing. You don't get any result. What's going on? I have now here in the top a up checker with a red dot. That tells me that something is wrong. And it tells me the requested operation is invalid on browse gallery items. So what is the problem? It says the requested operation is invalid, logical operator OR is not allowed. I must set allowed logical operators. What's going on? The item that I'm using here, let me go back to the list. I have a browse gallery. And the browse gallery does have an items source, and the item source is built up of sort columns, search of items, blah, blah, blah. What in fact he is doing is this. Search. This is what the source is of our gallery. To dive a little bit more into that, it's items. And items is that data source that we selected when we created the app. You see here it with square brackets, but it is just to identify that this is a data source, apart from maybe a possible global scope variable, which could have possibly the same name. That's why they use the square brackets around it. But we see a search in front of it. And the search is the problem here. A search is what we call in Power Apps a delegate action. Because Power Apps tries to delegate everything to the data source. Searching and filtering should not be done on Power App side on a mobile device. You should not load the complete data source onto the mobile device and then do searching and filtering. Because there's a cap on the maximum number of records that will be read on 500 records. So the filtering will probably not even be working. So what he tries to do is to delegate that search, and there is another one that is called lookup. He tries to delegate that to the data source, to the server of the data source. Say, hey, you search for me and give me back the results. That makes sense, of course, as long as the server is supporting that. Apparently, the server does not support it. What is this server here? Is that the APIs? Well, I don't think that is the API directly. I think, but that is not confirmed, I think there is some proxy between Power Apps and Business Central. Transparent for you, you don't see it, but I have seen the URL once in a log from a flow that failed. I think there is a proxy in between that does, with a web application that turns the API output into a real data table that can be read by Power Apps. So there's also some tweaking on the data, and that web application has not implemented those delegated actions. Something I've heard that they are working on. I think I saw that somewhere on a forum, so let's hope they're going to support it later on next year. But anyway, this is what we have today. You can create it out of the box, just don't demo the search part. Okay? So, that's for the first demo. Let's go back to the presentation and go for demo number 2. I want to update item inventory. The standard item API supports to update inventory. I've seen that, the directions, somebody doing that, and it cost me some time to find out what the code is, but it appears that the items API page is supporting it. You don't need any customization, unless you don't like the anonymous approach of that item API page. So what's happening behind the scenes? We first go into the page itself. So I have the source code of the item of the APIs, the API version 1 as it was released back in July. And there is on that one a function called update inventory. And that is called automatically when you call this API and you set the inventory value to something different than the real inventory value. Well, it's going to check it here, of course. If that is the same, then exit. Otherwise, it just initializes a item journal line, and then what is that double click to exit? Come on. Why do I have that one? Where does that come from? I have no idea. Ah, that one. So it just generates an item journal line for us and then posts it. Well, nice try. I'm personally not so sure if I'm happy with this approach. There is another approach that you could think of, because there is a real code unit in Business Central that does also inventory changes. That's the one that is called when you are on the items page and you want to change the inventory. So I wonder why they are not using that one. But anyway, if you're fine with this approach, you can use this. So that means that I just can call this API and set the inventory. So let's have a look at inventory of the item Ethan's desk. I have 4 items on stock. And what I can do, and I just want to do it one time with the API call itself from Postman. So I have a Postman here to get my company's list. If you were in vehicle Waldo sessions, you know why that is. I put that one in my company ID. I say get items. I have now my total list of items here. Okay, they used a different tool, but that's not really the point here. I have that item ID. I take that one, put that into a variable item ID, and then finally I can update inventory, and I send inventory, let's take 25. And I'm posting that with a patch to this item. Just click send. And let him crack on that. Okay, 200, status 200, okay. Let's go back to Business Central, do F5, and I have 25 pieces. That's how easy it is. Now I'm going to do this from Power Apps. So I have a Power App, And, well, let's leave this one. And why not do this from a real Power App? You see, I hope this one is going to work. So, there we go. Adjust item inventory. I've created a very simple app, and I see here the 25 items. Click on that one, and let's say, oh, sorry, that was not 25, it was 5. And say, save it. It's now adjusting inventory, and it says inventory has been adjusted. So, really? Let's find out. And go back to the items here, F5, and I have now 5 items. And the only thing I did in Power Apps is to work with the same technology that was behind that Create app that we just saw. So let me go into the app itself and show you what is behind it. Sometimes you need to be a little patient with this Power Apps editor. It can sometimes take a while, depends on the network load, I guess. So what I do have here is, first of all, I have a connection here, the items table, again, that items table from my connection. And then I have bound these items just to the gallery. I'm now here in my item repeater. So this is my gallery, and that is based on items, the data source that I have here. Then I have another screen called the inventory adjust inventory screen, and on that one I have a edit form, and that edit form has a couple of fields, and if I click on edit fields I can see them. I've put a number. The number is view text, so I cannot change it. The display name is also view text, that means I cannot change it. Inventory is edit as a number, that one can then be changed. And then finally I have this icon, and what this icon is doing is just a number of steps. I told you it's typing in formulas. Now in this case what I am doing is I send a notification that I'm busy with adjusting inventory, because I know the next step is probably gonna take me a couple of seconds. Then I submit form, which means because this is a data set, he knows that he wants to update the data set. So he takes away all the plumbing from me. After that, I say when it is ready, inventory has been adjusted, and then I navigate back to the main screen. So 4 steps just behind one single icon that has it set on the onSelect property. So demo number 2 is down, still works. I'm happy. Let me talk a little bit about that standard connector, because it has some there is some missing information in there, or at least something happened with that API version 1 that I am not really happy with. The Business Central connector is based on API version 1. The beta version of the API, which is still there, by the way, but it's marked as obsolete, will be taken away. And the beta version had a customer's API endpoint that was combining normal fields and flow fields. Flow fields as sales and amount due, etc. But in version 1, they splitted that. They have now created 2 or 3 different APIs. One customer API with the normal fields, and another API with the financial data. So if you want to call if you really want to run a slower API because it does some calc fields, you need to call the customer financial data API endpoint. And that is then really returning the flow fields. It's not that easy to combine that in an app, because that gallery and that form are based on one data set, not on two. So you can only see the fields from that single data set. And then if you say, oh, wait a second, I can call in, I can link it to my financial data and then find the correct record, so I can combine on one screen fields from two data sources, then technically, yes, that should be possible. But the thing that you need to do is that single thing that is not supported by the Business Central connector, you need to call a delegate function to look up in that customer financial data endpoint, which is not going to work. So the only solution would be a big workaround that I created, but I'm not going to demonstrate because it doesn't make sense. I created a flow that then calls the API and then returns it back to the app and then stores it in a collection and then blah, blah, blah. It was a detour that takes 3-4 seconds every time you open a customer card. Not really funny. So the only real solution for that is create a custom connector with the data that you want to see. Standard connector also does not support custom fields or custom tables. The standard connector is fixed. It's a whitelist of APIs and web services. You cannot add any custom API to that one. You cannot add any custom web service. There's one thing that is possible, though. I said you earlier, I told you that the web services are also part of that connector. And the page-based web services are based on pages that are extendable. Well, for now. I don't know if it's going to change. Those pages currently are, it's possible to extend them with a page extension. So with that, you can create a page extension, for example, for the workflow customers or workflow purchase documents, and add other fields. And in that way, I was able, in a current project, to add custom fields from the purchase header to the standard API connector. So I had no reason to create a custom connector for that, which saves a lot of work, actually. But as soon as you want to go with custom data, redata is not in standard connector, then you have to create a custom connector. A custom connector is the channel between Power Apps, Power Automate, and your APIs. It allows you to define your own functions and triggers. And it's based on the Open API specification, meaning that Open API 2, as far as I know, you could import a complete Open API specification. Unfortunately, at this moment, you cannot generate an Open API specification from your custom APIs. This is something they're working on, but it's is Microsoft in this case. That is coming, I don't know when, I've not heard about any estimation, but it's something that's on the radar. Because creating custom connectors is really a tedious task. If you made a mistake, you can start over again, or try to modify the Swagger information yourself. Let's just dive into that. Let's look into a custom connector and see how that works. So what I do have is a small app, and that app, and those who were in my workshop earlier this week on Wednesday, they will recognize this one. I'm creating friends. I have a small table with friends, just a code and a name, and a page that will show them, and will show all my friends. Let me find out if I currently do have any friends in Business Central. Well, I do have 3 friends. We just delete all the friends so you can see that it's really working. And at this moment, I've unfriended everybody, so I'm kind of alone in the world. So what I can do with an API, I've created a Friends API that allows me to create new friends, to read the friends, etc. And I want to create a custom connector that allows me to read the friends and to create a new friend. That's the goal. Let's try to do this, and I'm just doing this from scratch. If it doesn't work, I created it already before, but I know you guys want to see this working in real life, so why not just do it? So to work with a custom connector, we need to know exactly the URLs. So I first start with, let me close these here. My base URL that I will be using is a base URL, let me show it here, is based on a base URL api.businesscentral.dynamics.com on a certain tenant called Kronos.company, and the environment is Sandbox. I can also, what's that here? Not sure if I can enlarge this, doesn't work. But you see here that it is a get on Kronos, v2 Kronos Company Sandbox API, my name, slash the group Navtech Days slash beta, dus the version on API Dynamics, businesscentraldynamics.com. So that is my information that I need. As the base URL. Now on that one, I can get companies. I need companies because the Friends API has the company ID in the URL. So I first start with getting the companies, and then get this one. I put it into my company variable, and then finally I can use that in my URL here. Then say send, and this is my complete URL. Okay. So what I need to do is to create a custom connector that has that calls the get friends. Let's just start with that. Let's close this one, leave. Custom connectors, you find them under data and then custom connectors. Then we can create a new custom connector. Over here, I start to create it from blank, so you see out of the box how that works. BC Friends, that's the name. The first thing that we need to type in, we can use a different icon if you want to, give it a description, but what we really need to type in is the the host name of the URL, which is in this case api.businesscentral.dynamics.com. The next thing is if that base URL needs to be extended with something that can be applied to every single action that we will create. So the base URL that we type in here will be applied to all actions from the connector, meaning that we can then shorten the URLs for the connection. We only need to specify the path behind the base URL. So if we look at this one here, I've now just specified only dynamics.com. Every API will currently have /v2, so that's something we at least can type in. Oh, where is it? Here. So v2.0. Don't forget the trailing slash. But there's more. We also have tenant, we have environment, and we have a company ID in here. For now, for this demo, I will just use this complete URL as a base URL up to this one here. That is because at this moment I know upfront that I want to connect to this tenant, I want to connect to this environment. Later on you will see how to make that a variable. So I take this Kronos Company sandbox up to beta, and this is going to be my base URL. The next step is to specify security. Security. How do I authenticate against the data source? And for now, I choose basic authentication. But you should not type in a username and a password here. We are creating a definition. We are not creating the real connection. So the only thing that you need to type in here is what is the caption for the username and the password that you require for basic authentication. So let's just type in username password, or to make that a little bit more clear, I want to have the web service access key. And here you'll see later on this web service access key as the caption when he asks for the real credentials. The next step is the definition itself. The definition here is containing actions, references, policies. I will only talk about the actions here. The references and policies are not really relevant for us with Business Central. I can create a new action, and the first action I want to create is get friends. Read the table friends from the database. So I give this one a friendly name and an operation ID which does not contain any spaces. The request that this one is based on can be imported from a sample. It is a get, and the complete URL is in fact this one. Well, it is, I already specified this as the base, so I can take only this as the remaining part. But it is not really necessary to say, okay, I have already created that as the base URL. If you take the complete URL, you will find out that part of that URL is already the base URL, so we will take that out. So I copy that and paste it in here. So this is my complete URL, and then say import. That's fine. My request now contains of a URL with no parameters. I'll come back to the parameters later. Then it has a response, so I have to specify how does it look like if you have any friends, and for that I can take the response from here, but this one is pretty empty, so we need to have at least a response with one friend, so why not create one friend at least, friend 01. Why would I do that, by the way, in this way? I have another one in Postman for that, makes things even easier. No, I cannot, this is the cat. So I do have a name, let me edit this one. This is going to be John Doe. And now if I go to Postman, say send, I do have that one as output. I copy that, go back to here. I was here. Paste this as an example. Import it. And now when I click on default, I see that he has recognized that in that output is a OData context, an OData e-tag, a code, and a name. That's just what he got out of that response that I just pasted in. Well, that is all information that I need for the get friends. So I can now create the connector, and let's just test it to see if it works. Because at this moment, we are close to creating the app itself. In order to test, I have to create a connection first, because there's no connection based on this connector. So that's the first thing I need to do. And here I see username and that web service access key. My username is AJK, and my web service access key is, go to users card, to this one, take that one, press Ctrl C, paste it in, say create. This one now moves out of the custom connector creation. It goes to the connections list, but at least you can see here the BC Friends just created 1 second ago. Go back into custom connectors, click on edit, we go to test, we say we want to use this connection, and then test the operation get friends. And we get a 200 and we get data. So, now I'm going to create an app based on this data. So I quit custom connectors, I go to apps and say I want to create a new Canvas app. And by the way, I can tell you it's going to fail. I know why, but it will fail. And the first thing I need to do is to tell him what is my data source that I want to use. I want to use BC Friends. And you know what? Not a single question about which environment, which company, whatsoever. And that is the difference between custom connectors and the standard connector. He will not ask you these questions in Power Apps. No matter what you do, you will not get this question. So I want to insert a gallery over here on my screen. Insert a gallery. Gallery is what we know as a repeater. Blank vertical. And I want to give him as the source the friends. But that is not what he can do. He says here, name isn't valid. He does not know. BC Friends is a custom connector with actions. So we need to tell him what is the action that will return our data set that I want to show here. So I say get friends. That's the action. Really with brackets, because this is a function without any parameters. Okay, so now we can work on this. Not really, because here I get an error message. I hope you can read it, but it says status code 404 message resource not found. And we'll see that here as well in the runtime. I have an error message 404 resource not found. Well, this one took me a couple of minutes to solve because everything looks fine. You can go back into the custom connector, test it again, it will work. What is the problem here? In the custom connector, we have specified that the URL of the this endpoint contains a company ID. But Power Apps treats this differently. Power Apps wants to see this as a string with quotation marks. And if you put quotation marks here, then I cannot test it. So the problem is, I need to specify this as a parameter rather than having it as a fixed value. So don't put fixed values in your custom connector. That's the tip. So what I need to do is to specify that company ID is a parameter. And to do that, I just take the complete URL, I copy paste that into Notepad and say, okay, this one, take that one out. And this is going to be company ID. A parameter is is specified with curly brackets, single curly brackets around it. So I say import from sample, this is get, and that is my URL. And then we see in the path here a parameter. I can click on that one, say yes, this is required. I can give it the default value. Not going to do that, will still fail. I will do that from Power Apps. And I still need to specify, well, I don't need to re-specify the response, so this looks fine. I can now update the connector, test the connector once more to see if everything works. I need now to specify that company ID, so I copy that one, paste it in, say test operation. I have a status 200 and data, so that one works fine. Now I have updated my connector. However, this one doesn't know about it. So what I now need to do is to take out this data source so he can refresh it. Say, yep, here we go. This is the one. And now to find out, hopefully, that he knows, yeah, I need a company ID. So this is what I would like to do. Okay, error is gone. So let's see if I can get any data. Inside my repeater, I want to insert a label. That label is now pointing to this item odata.context. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I want to see the code. The code or the name. Hey, it's not there. I have OData context only as possible value. But I'm sure that I do have code and I do have a name. What's the problem here? The problem is that we are looking at the OData payload that comes back from the API. This is what you get. And the data is inside value. So the only thing that I see here is OData context, and I can see value, but it doesn't look inside it. But my real data, my data set, is this part. This is a JSON array. I want to show this into a gallery, so I need to have the array. So my only option is go to this one here and say, behind this, I want to have value. And then suddenly code is known. Add another one here and say this is now this item dot name, and there we go. So now I have my value. So this is how it works with custom connectors. And because of the time and I have some other demos, I'll skip the other one to create it, but creating it is a matter of doing the same thing over again, saying create a custom connector now with post and the parameters. So we add another action with post, and then we have a screen where you have some input fields, you have a button that calls that create action with the parameters. That's it. It's not really impressive. So let's move on with the next part. I have a simple demo, a question that I get quite some time. Can we do something with pictures? And can we take a picture and upload it to Business Central? And yes, that is possible. Well, it worked yesterday, so I hope it still works. The thing is that, I still have that. Come on, can you please go away with this one? The output of the picture is base64 encoded. So that is something to keep in mind. But with a custom connector, we can upload it to a blob field. So what I do have here in Business Central is a pictures page. I hope I deleted all my test pictures. Yeah, there was one. Let me create, get a picture, take picture, and please smile or wave or whatever. Capture. Now he's uploading it to Business Central. That takes a moment, but it should give me a success screen. There we go. and we do F5, and we have another picture here. This is you. So, what is behind this? I do have an API created for picture, and this is just a simple table, the picture table with a blob field in it. So that should be not really a problem for you to understand. One thing that I need to do is to upload my data. It's going to be base64, and for that, when I'm in the Picture API page, I needed to do a little trick. So here I have my Picture API page. And if I create a record, the thing that I need to do here is to find out if the base64 started with data colon image. That is what a standard base64 encoded image contains. But that is not a part that I need to have into my image, so I need to strip that off. It will end, there's a complete stream, I have no idea how long that exactly will be, but it will end with a comma. And I need to have everything removed up to the comma, and then I will have my real base64 part. So that's what I do here. I remove that, and then I store it with base64. I store it as binary in the blob. So, of course, I do have a custom connector for that. And that one is this one. Let me edit it. And my definition here is create a picture based on this complete URL, which is my URL for the Pictures API. And in that I have a body. The body is containing data and an ID. The ID is, should be hidden, but the data is what my real data is going into. So in my apps here, I do have my camera app. Say edit. Yep. The only thing that I did is I created a take button, a capture button. Normally with Power Apps, you have the camera, the camera control. You need to click on the camera control to take a photo. That's not what I did. I wanted to have a picture button, and for that, if you want to use that, you need to grab the camera stream. But to get the camera stream, you need to set the camera stream property. So on the camera, I have a stream property. Where is it? Stream rate, and set that one to 100. Then I can take something from the stream. So what happens here is that I call create picture record, which is the name of that action on my custom API, my custom connector. I create it with that company ID, and with an ID that I create here is a new GUID, and the data coming from the stream, and if ready, I navigate away to the next screen. So that's basically what happens. It's not magic. It's just create a table, create an API, the custom connector, and then call it from Power Apps. Okay, let's move on. 22 minutes, and I have 5 more demos to go. So let's speed up. Power Automate. Actually, something I like a lot. Power Automate, what exactly is that doing? It is about automating a process. So something happens, and then in one of your data sources, and then you take an action without any human involvement, well, at the start. But you can involve human if, for example, with the approval. Say, I want to start a certain set of actions when something happens, but with approvals I need human interaction, so I can send out the approval to somebody, wait for him to respond, and then the actions automatically continue. You can work with AI Builder for automatic intelligent processes, and you have something new that's called the UI Flow. It is in preview that promise you to work even with applications that do not have an API, because it will simulate user clicks on that application. I can imagine how it works on web applications. I have no idea how that will work on a old Visual Basic 6 application, for example, because Flow is Power Automate is a real SaaS platform running somewhere in the cloud. Anyway, what I want you to show very quickly is a little bit of the power of Power Automate, so you get an idea of how powerful that actually is. So I go to Power Automate, to my flows, and create a new flow. I skip this here. The first thing that I need to do is to start with a trigger. And what I'm going to do is to start with an HTTP trigger. So this is when an HTTP request is received. This basically turns your flow into a web service. The URL of the web service will be generated when we have saved the flow. Before we can save it, we need to take one other step, and I will do that. I will, as a next step, just send an email. I will send an email to, well, let's just send an email to myself, whatever I have already that open, admin, and with subject, new mail from Flow, and, oh, in fact, it's Power Automate, whatever. With body isn't this powerful. Let's save it. Then go back to this one here. Now we have a URL. I copy that one. I go to Postman, create a new request, post it in here, set it to post, and click on send. It returns with status 202 accepted, and it should come in a second. Come on, you can do it. No, there's not this forward field, so say OK. What's going on? It succeeded. Okay, well, the idea is that I would get an email right here, but at this moment it didn't come in. Sometimes I see that happening. The first time you test this out, it can take a couple of minutes, up to 2 hours the first time. That's what I experienced last week. So let's not wait for him to finish this. What I can see here in my runs is that I did have a new email sent to this admin user. And, I should have sent it to AJK. Wait a second. I'm logged in as AJK and not as admin. So, oops, I should have remembered that. So let's send it to AJK. Hopefully then it will be fast. Okay, let's go out, go back to Postman, send it. The story about the delay is still true, because last week I really had that new created flow, and it took him 2 hours to arrive in my mailbox. But anyway, I have a new email. Imagine that I now have this URL in Business Central, stored in the setup table. And you can just go with the normal HTTP client, post this URL, and you have sent an email out of Business Central. It would just take you 5 minutes to create it, right? let's make this a little bit more powerful. What I want to do with my flow is to tell Flow that I will receive a body. And let's create that body here in Postman. Say this is a raw body, it will be JSON, and I'm going to say the email tool is going to be, again, my email address. The subject is email from Postman, and the body will be cool demo for Power Automate. I take this body here, copy it, and say generate from here. So now I have generated for him a JSON schema. Then in my email here, I say, please say take email tool, take the subject, and take the body out of the request. Save it. Go to Postman and really send it. Go back to my mail, and I have new email from Postman. Can you imagine how powerful this is from Business Central? If you have this URL to send an email, I hope you get the ID. So, and this is just one example. Of course, I could do other things, which I will show in the next demos. 40 minutes left, let's see if that works. I want to quickly go over the approval templates. We have 12 approval templates available, and it's not really impressive what they are, honestly, because they are just copies from each other. The only difference between them is that they have a different trigger, and the trigger is approval requested for purchase order, approval requested for purchase invoice, approval requested for sales quotes, etc., etc. But the rest of it is exactly the same. We also have two templates that are coming from Microsoft Flow community. And that is, nobody knows who has done that. Anybody in the room? Raise your hand, because nobody knows who created those two Flow community templates. It's a mystery. I told Microsoft, I said, you don't have 12, you have 14. They said, no, we have two are there that we haven't created ourselves. Anyway, those approval templates are linked to workflow in Business Central. And that is what I want to show you quickly, because there are some little secrets behind it that you need to know. So what I will do, first of all, show you that everything is live. I go to workflows. Come on. I don't have any workflow here. Then I go to flow and I say create a new flow, create from template. Search for my Business Central templates and create one for purchase order. It's going to show me the connectors that he will use. I need to have a connector for approvals, that's it. If I want to change the account, I could do here, could change that, say add a new connection. Now I'm fine with this. Say continue. And then the big fill-in happens. I need to specify Sandbox, I need to specify the company. This is the first thing when a purchase document approval is requested. Then the next step is to get the record, again from Sandbox, Kronos USA. Then I have to start with to type in who will approve this. For now, I take my email address. There we go. This person. Then, when the approval is ready, I have a response from the approval. I check if that one is approved or not. If it is approved, I execute an action. Don't forget to again type in environment and company name. Every action is on its own. That's why you need to specify this. And then Kronos USA on the reject part. Now I can save this whole flow and go back. Yeah, that's fine. And then go back to Business Central. Funny thing is, if I do F5, nothing happens. But if I close it and go back, workflows, I do have a new workflow. So now I have a new workflow created from Business Central. Okay, so what happened is behind the scenes that he just called Business Central, say here is a new flow. There is that first trigger that registers himself in Business Central. There's a lot of code behind the scenes, hard-coded, creates that workflow with the correct events, responses, etc. This is a hard-coded piece of code that creates this whole workflow. For example, in the workflow, if you look at the possible responses here, then you will see send a record notification to a webhook. This webhook is the URL from Business Central that he created, which is exactly the same type of URL that we just created with the HTTP request that I used to create an email. So let's test this one, because it's going to fail. This one is just going to fail. Just to make sure that my setup is correct. Yeah, this is what I expected. This is out of the box, what will happen. Purchase orders. Open a purchase order. And then say request approval. Send approval request. Status is now set to pending approval. And here in flow, I have a new flow run, which is currently running, and it's now waiting on start for approval. And that approval should come in here, but it doesn't right now. This was what happened last week to me, that I tried this out a couple of times, and then I went to bed, and then at 2 a.m. or something, the approvals came in this inbox. So instead of waiting, because we have only 8 minutes left, I want to move on and tell you what is going wrong. If I approve, if I try to do that from here, then it will fail, because I get an error message saying that AJK is not allowed to take the next step. That is what I will get as an answer, as an error message in Flow. What is the problem? Or the problem, what is going on? I have a connection over here. Business Central is, the Flow is connecting to Business Central with this user ID, ajk@kronos.company. This is the user ID that will be seen by the code in Business Central as being a user that approves. However, this is not a setup approval user at this moment. So I need to go to approval users, setup, approval. I don't want, approval user. There we go. I need to create a record, and not just for AJK. This is not enough. I need to have the approver ID here. I need to have that user that is used by Flow, by the connection of Flow. I need to have it in the approver ID field, or in the substitute field. Well, I cannot approve my own request, so if I look here, it will show me somebody else, but not me. No, nothing in this case, because I did not have any other user in this list, and this is just the user setup table. Now, if I look here at approver ID, I see finance, and if I look at this one, I will see AJK. I can delete this line. This is in fact the record that I need. Well, to have that approver ID, I need to have it as a record as well, but this is the minimum setup that you need. The user that you have on the connection needs to be in the approver ID column. It doesn't have to be on the line of the user ID that does the request. As long as there's somewhere a record with that ID in the approver ID field, then it's fine. So, and then it will all work automatically. I'm not saying I'm happy with this. I think there's some room for improvement, but this is what it is. Let's move on with the demo about the survey. As you can imagine, I just created a simple custom connector. So let me quickly show you that custom connector here. It's not under connectors, by the way. It's under data and then custom connectors. And there I have my survey connector. I have, for every different demo, I created a different connector. But you can, of course, combine it into one big connector. That's just up to you. So here I have my definition. And in my definition, I have create response, which goes to my custom API that I have created to store responses in Business Central. But I have more. I've also created an action to get environments. So when I do that one, I get a list of environments that I have enabled here in my tenant. And I do have a get companies action. So if I do test operations, I see the companies here. Why is that important? Well, in my definition for create response, I have specified that environment and company are parameters. You see the curly brackets. So they are here in the path as parameters. And for environment, I say this is a dynamic parameter which comes from another operation, the get environments operation. I want to use the value name to put that into the URL, and the display name is for the drop-down, option value, option caption. And the same with the company ID. He should get the company ID from the get companies operation. That one already has the environment in its URL, but he can take that from my environment variable that I already had, and then have the value, the ID, to use that to paste it into the URL, and the display name with the name for the drop-down. As a result, what I get in my flow is here, create response, a drop-down with the sandboxes, with the environments that I have, and the companies that I have. So if I switch here to production, okay, no. I was expecting him to at least show me, okay, I know why my user that I'm using is not in the production environment anyway, so that wouldn't work. But okay, so in this way, we can give the user who puts this together a real nice experience. Okay, final demo. A couple of months ago, I did a presentation about working with files, and then this Twitter feed popped up, and some people said, well, you shouldn't work with files. Okay, that's a statement, because if you believe in that, then my next demo is, and the final demo, I promise, it does not make any sense. but I'm afraid we still have to work with files. So I give you one idea what is possible with Power Automate. We can use the APIs to upload files into blob fields. So there's documented, so won't go deep into that. The picture API was also doing that. I want to combine that API with Flow. So I have created an API with an API that creates an incoming document and adds an attachment to it. And that is created a flow for that, so a custom connector with the actions, created a flow that reacts to when a new email arrives with an attachment. Then grab the attachment and uploads it to the blob field with the custom connector API settings, with the API actions. So with an API, with the trigger for email inbox that is working, but I could also create a trigger for FTP or a local file system with a gateway connector, etc. So I want to have your help. Please send me a PDF if you can miss one, and I will do so the same, to finance@kronos.company. And I will show you that that one will end up in Business Central. I'll give you 15 seconds to get this email address, and I will do it myself too, so you can see this working. Finance@kronos.company. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's gone. So I'm going to mail something myself. New message to finance@kronos.company. Oops, that was not what I wanted. Say final demo. Attach a certain record, a PDF file, and send it. Then, in Business Central, go to incoming documents. Here is my final demo. Okay, so guys, you have just sent an email and now everybody can see it. I will view my PDF that I've just sent myself. So here it is. And, oops, I see some more emails coming in. Let's take this one. View. There we go. So that works. And the others I will read later on. Because I did the same demo a couple of months ago, and then they sent me some pictures in PDFs that I didn't want to have opened at that moment. So I know your dirty minds. Okay, that was the final demo. So, well, not really. I had another demo for custom triggers. Just very quickly, I'm not going to demonstrate it because time's up. We can also create custom triggers. And custom triggers means that we have seen that when an approval is requested, that's a trigger that Microsoft created. We can do the same. We can create our own triggers. For example, when a sales order is shipped, a real business process, or when a user is created, or when inventory goes below a certain level, etc. And for that, I have created in Business Central a table to store Flow webhooks. I have created a custom connector that specifies a trigger that points to the API to store the webhook. Then in Business Central, I say, hey, if this business process occurs, do I have a webhook? If yes, then send that webhook a notification. Do that very quickly. And that is here in Flow, under my custom connectors, the trigger, edit, definition. Here I have a trigger that is called on-ship sales order. And this one points to a API Flow webhooks. That is an API that just stores a URL. And inside Business Central, I do have some code. And that code, I have this table that stores the URL in a field notification URL, and then some code to execute this URL, which happens on after post sales doc. If sales error is shipped, then I'm going to take an action. I call that webhook. Well, let me look into Postman if that one does have any webhooks at this moment. It does have already a webhook, so I've created a flow for that. When a sales order is shipped, and here in the top you see when a sales order is shipped in Sandbox and that company. If I save this one, then he will register himself with that URL that you see here. So, and the next thing is to create a task. Let me do that one more time. That's really the last demo. Under sales orders, let me ship a sales order and not invoice it. That's the ID, because the task is, hey, you need to invoice this one. So, posting, post, only ship, say OK. Come, you can do that. Today, please. You want to stop. And 2 seconds ago, this flow has run. And here under tasks, I should see a new task. There it is. Create invoice for this sales order. So that is what the flow was doing. It says, hey, when a new sales order is shipped, register again himself with Business Central. Here's the URL. Then I get the record that comes in when this one happens, and then finally create that task. I think this is a real example of doing business process rather than on create, record, etc. So I let you go. If you have any questions, feel free. And otherwise, safe trip to home and enjoy the closing thing. I see a question over there. Oops. I don't know, it works. Should I switch that on?
Hello?
Yeah, it works.
Perfect. Just a question about the licenses. So
about
if
what?
I want the license.
The license.
Yeah. What about Business Central when you use...
I'm a techie guy, so I don't know a lot about licenses. But let me tell you this.
Okay.
Business Central comes with a Dynamics 365 for Power Platform license.
Okay.
But in October they changed that license to, they limited the possibility. So I don't know, top of my head, what exactly you can do with it.
Yeah.
But
thanks.
you earn a T-shirt for that question.
Yeah, thank you. Who's next?
Over there?
Yep.
Watch your back.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question.
And guys, and a safe trip home for those who are leaving now.
I have a question regarding the connection.
Oh, thank you.
If
You have a question?
If I'm creating a Power App, then I have to specify a connection, and I'm connecting under my account or under the creator account.
Yeah.
And if I pass it on to another user,
Good question.
can I change the credentials then?
So what happens if you have created a Power App that uses a connection and you share the Power App with another user? Some connectors can be shared, some connectors cannot be shared. And a Business Central connector is a connector that cannot be shared, so every user needs to create his own connection with his own credentials. But, and that I haven't tried out yet, I have seen that the custom connectors can be shared.
Okay.
So, if that is the case, then I can create a custom connector, share it with someone else, who can then enter Business Central under my credentials.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would like that.
Me neither.
But standard Business Central connector doesn't do that. Good question. You earn a T-shirt. Who wants to have the next T-shirt? We have the best question here. Come on, you were just next.
All right.
Only if you have a good question.
We'll see. Question about those apps that you showed us on phone, actually, on smartphone.
Yeah.
You were logged to the Power Apps, or
Yeah.
is there an easy way to deploy it as an Android app, in example?
So I think that's a good question. So shirt is yours. Yes. So what I did is I downloaded the Power Apps from the Play Store, and then you log in with your Office 365 user. That's it. And then you see, you have to select the environment, because you have multiple environments in Power Apps. But you select the environment and you see the apps that you have access to. Inside the Power Apps app that you download from App Store. It's app in an app, yes. They have something that's called Portal app, which can be used by anonymous users, but that is basically a web application. It does not require an app on a mobile. Yep.
Thank you. Flow Connect, BC Connector is still preview, which is recommended to using preview BC Connector.
Sorry,
or
can you speak up a little bit? I don't get the question.
Speak here.
okay.
Yeah.
BC Connector is still preview, and I'm a function consultant, and our customer BC using BC, they interested in using Flow BC Connector, but they say, is it okay to preview connector? So, which is better, using preview connector or create and using custom connector?
I'm not sure if I understand you correctly, but I think you say if it is good to use the preview connector. Because it's in preview, is that your question?
Yes, BC connector is preview.
It's preview, yes, it's fine to use. I don't know why they put it in preview. I have no idea why. It's already there for months, years. So, I don't know.
Hello, I have a question about approval of approval workflow. So, for example, if we have a purchase invoice, but for different departments, we have only one approver for one user.
So, when you create that approval, you have the set of conditions. That set of conditions you can specify. They will be copied over to the workflow, and there it will filter the purchase order if it fits to the filters. And what is even better, you can use custom fields on that filter. So if you have any custom fields you want to filter on, with the approvals that works, because they are based on the web service, page web services. So that you can extend them with a page extension, as long as they allow it. Because maybe sometime they say extend will false and then it's over, but for now it works. Yep.
You show that Power Apps have a connection for BC on-prem.
Yeah.
What about Power Automation? Does this work with on-prem installation, or how does this work?
Yes, it does. Same story. So you create a connection for Power Apps, for Business Central on-prem. That will just work exactly the same way. Yeah. Okay, that's it for the questions. I have one question here.
Is it possible to use the custom connector to create a meeting invite in Outlook?
Yes, not a custom connector. There is a connector to create invites. So you don't need a custom connector for that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's out of the box available. Okay. Thank you so much. If you have any further questions, you got my email address, I hope. So enjoy the weekend.